Hey, welcome back to TwoSun Tuesday, and today we have a Tepe design knife here. We can see that this is a Micarta model here with nested liners and a button lock going on here. We got the flipper tab up here. There we go. We can see we got that California clip point kind of Bowie style knife going on here. A lot of y'all might think this probably looks kind of familiar, and you know what? You're not wrong. Here we go. Bam! This is the TS399. This is a badass knife. It's the only one that they've produced using S110V steel. Still wasn't heat treated nearly as great as some of the best treated S110V, but still a very great contender for edge retention and stuff like that. This is up there with one of the best edge retentive tests that I've done on a knife. But yeah, we can see it is that knife. Um, this is a little bit more of or a lot more of a budget oriented model. So it doesn't have the titanium frame lock and all that sort of stuff. But it does have a button lock in its place. And yeah, there we go. This micarta, it's using their newer canvas style micarta. They've done a very rough finish on here, so this is really grippy. It's rough enough that some people will call it kind of a terry cloth feel to it, where you can really feel a lot of the fiber and texture going on it. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the rest of it. We do have a matching back spacer here. So they didn't use G10, which always happy for, just for aesthetic reasons. G10 is probably much cheaper to end up implementing on the backside or the back spacer and stuff like that. But it's always kind of nice from an aesthetics standpoint when it actually matches. So yes, I have talked and done a review on that TS399 there in S110V steel. This has a lot of the same things because the handle is the same shape, the blade is the same shape. Of course, it is using a D2 steel. Mine's number 62 since most of the Tepe design knives are numbered from TwoSun. I think this was 131 on this one. Yes, 131. Something that I will say right up front, just like every other manufacturer making them, this is a button lock that uses steel liners on here. This button lock has jammed on me once, as in jammed, as in, once that was pushed down, it didn't spring back up so the blade wouldn't lock open or closed, and at that point, it's kind of dangerous to hold on to them or carry them because they're not going to be all that reliable for you. That's kind of the nature of the beast for the most part. At this point, from just about any manufacturer, if it's got steel liners on it and it's button lock, not interested. I'm just, write it off as, well, other people will cover it and other people will enjoy it. It's not for me. And apparently my particular climate here in the Denver area where the barometric pressure might change or stuff like that over time and cause these things to be unreliable. I will also say that that has only happened to me with manufacturers who use steel liners for their button locks. So if you end up having a different configuration, something like, I don't know, the CGRB, is this the cord? Yeah. Where you have full steel scales or titanium or whatever else you might have there. Aluminum in the case of like the ProTech Malibu and some of the Kershaw launches. No problems with any of those. I think it really has to do with the steel liners that almost all the manufacturers use, and possibly just their kind of slightly warping and stuff like that with barometric pressure, and they might not have been tempered at the same time, so they might warp in slightly different ways, kind of like bimetal coil for like a heater thermostat or something like that. And it's enough to actually jam this little plunger cup. So there you go. This has only happened once on this guy in particular, but it's still definitely something that I feel is probably important to cover there for you. I haven't seen a whole lot of other people besides me really complain about it. So, in that case, I'm assuming that, it really is a little bit more climate based or something like that than others. But hey, it is what it is. And, there's a whole bunch of button lock knives out there that I'm just not interested in taking a look at because I know it's basically going to happen because it's happened with them all. Civivi and Kaiser and Vosteed and TwoSun here and CJRB and Trivisa, just, all of them. They'll do that. So, I'm just kind of done with it. It's not necessarily a manufacturer's fault or something like that, I guess. Not quite sure, but hey, it is what it is. But, yes, outside of all of that, this is, all intents and purposes, a button lock version of the TS399, which I think for the most part is out of manufacture. Mostly because this was the only knife that they ever produced in S110V, which makes me think that they don't really have enough to make another batch of them, and they're probably not interested in acquiring any more S110V or trying to work with it, which is why they probably kind of work with Tepe Designs, or Sean Hassan, if you will, on kind of making a little bit more of a budget-friendly version. But still, a lot of the ergonomics, exactly the same. Cutting characteristics, pretty much the same. This is a high saber grind kind of blade here with a very, very aggressive and curved clip point going on there. Quite the large finger choil on here. This has actually caught me up, not on this one, but on the frame lock one. When I was trying to wipe the blade off, I actually got the edge there kind of hooked on my shorts, and that accidentally made me move to try to get that unattached from my shorts, and on the case of that, I ended up stabbing my leg. So that was fun, but that's a finger choil. It's not this particular knife, or just choils in general. But yeah, there we go. We got nice jumping up here, decently aggressive, or grippy, I should say, not necessarily aggressive. It's not uncomfortable at all. We don't really have any button movement, or blade movement, I should say. Whether it's up and down, left or right, or whatever, it's rock solid, just like a lot, but not all button locks are. And we can see we have just a little tiny bit of a little dome there. That's to make the flat area for the spring that the button recoils from to do that. I do appreciate that they do have nested steel liners on here, though. It's just something that I personally prefer. It's not super important, but definitely much better than knives that end up doing proud steel liners, which it's a pet peeve of mine. It's just not comfortable for my particular hands. Maybe yours are a little bit different. I don't know, but there we are. So yeah, if you like some budget knives, this is obviously using D2, just like almost all the other knives. Like I keep saying, supposedly some newer models will be coming out with 154 cm for kind of the mid steel, and then they have the YJ01-V1 M390 fork for the really high end stuff now. And supposedly N690, which I've seen on a model or two for the kind of the lower end of stuff like that. So it seems like they might be either phasing D2 out, or at least just kind of interspersing the other ones in there. But hey, there it is. This is in D2, so that's it. We do have the deep carry pocket clip here. Interesting that it's actually inset into the liner there. Of course, it does have their kind of domed screws, but overall, not too bad. I haven't really had any problems getting it into or out of any pockets that I've had, so no complaints there. We don't have any pivot collars going on. It's just kind of their standard kind of looking thing there, and then it's got the notches there, so a little bit more of a throwback, a little bit of a pivot head that seems to not be used quite as much as it used to be on some TwoSuns. But okay, how about if we talk about some specs on this guy here? 3.6 millimeters on the blade stock thickness, so not anywhere near the thickest, but this still is kind of a robust grind on this knife. Not the absolute uber slicey, incredibly thin behind the edge there, but still, it ends up working out all right. I haven't had it bind up in materials when I'm cutting with it, but still, it's not going to be like a laser beam for you. The weight on this guy, 4.33 ounces or 123 grams. And a lot of that seems like it's probably just due to the kind of thicker blade stock on this guy here. The blade length on it, 3.37. That's from that kind of dome over here out to the tip. And that's 85.6 millimeters. And then the handle thickness on this guy, 0.58. So well over half an inch. A little bit thicker than something like a Spyderco PM2 or something like that, but does kind of fill out your hands pretty nicely. And of course, it is contoured, so that's only in the thickest portions there, and it does thin out both at the top and bottom. And that's 14.7 millimeters for it. So let's go ahead and do some blade size comparisons for this guy here. Let's go with Spyderco PM2, which is fairly similar. Let's go with the PM3, much smaller, but yeah, that's good for comparison's sake. All right, and then we got Benchmade Griptilian, which is very, very similar as far as ratios and blade width and all that sort of stuff there. And then we got the Benchmade 940, similar in length, obviously much thinner of a blade. And then we got the Bug Out, quite a bit smaller, but still a very, very popular knife. So I figure I'll pull that out. There's the Rat number 1, much larger. This is probably in between the Rat 1 and Rat 2. I don't own a Rat 2 personally, but hey, we do have the Civivi Elementum, which is another popular kind of smaller knife. So there we go with that. Alrighty, move some of these guys out the way. And yeah, there we go. I can't really think of a whole lot here that I haven't really covered through everything that I wanted to talk about. So, in that particular case, that's where my standard review kind of ends. We are going to go ahead and open this up. So if you want to see the inside of this and the mechanism and all that sort of stuff, well, then that's exactly what we're going to do. For everybody else, appreciate y'all for stopping by, and I'll see y'all in another video, or if I'm lucky. So, alrighty, here we go. T8 hardware all the way around. Let's go ahead and pull the pocket clip out. Didn't necessarily need to do that, but doesn't hurt at all for actually trying to separate the scales from the internal liners there. And then here's the pivot screw. So yeah, there we go with that. There was a spring that just kind of came out around the same time that I pulled everything else out. And we can see that, yeah, this thing is quite skeletonized as far as the liners go. Also seems like they have a coating of some sort on them. Not sure exactly what it is. Probably titanium nitride of some sort. Also, not quite sure why they bothered to do that since they're nested, so people aren't going to see them. But, you know, it is also just what it is. And yeah, here we go. Here's the little plunger button. Very, very similar to what you see on a whole bunch of other knives. And then I had the stop pin. Where the heck does that? There we are. There's the stop pin. It goes right up there. But yeah, very, very hollow on the inside. Like I said, I do appreciate the Micarta backspacer here. Micarta actually looks really, really nice on this particular model. This is using their newer, actually canvas micarta rather than what they were calling linen micarta, what was definitely a very, very sparse burlap in the past. So, yeah, we can go ahead and throw this guy back together here, which is always just the funnest. It's nowhere near as bad as trying to deal with a crossbar lock or something like that, but it still has its own little challenges and all that sort of stuff. But there we go. We got the stop pin in place there. We got both sides of that. We got the plunge guy over there. And then, of course, because we have steel liners here, we don't need a bearing race, just a little kind of carved out area for it. Let's slap that guy back there. Don't forget the spring. That's super important for these particular guys here. And because of that, you're going to want to go straight down with the scale so that it actually captures that spring where it needs to be. And then from there, yeah, I'm going to just easily fold that in half. And we can get them screws back all up in there. No problems whatsoever. Just, yep, keep in mind with button locks from basically any manufacturer, outside of kind of specifically, I think like the Spyderco Smock and the Civivi Elementum button lock. Not the Elementum 2, but the original Elementum button lock, because that actually uses a liner rather than a spring. But basically all other button locks, you really need to be careful when you open them up, because you don't really want that button spring to yeet itself into Narnia where you can never find the damn thing again, because a lot of times they don't use a standard spring size or something like that, so it's a little bit difficult to replace those parts, so you don't want to lose them if you have the ability not to do so. But yeah, we're all back together. No problems. No button stick. No button stick at all that I've experienced with this guy here. And that's not something that I can say with a lot of other button locks. A lot of them I can experience some lock stick. Not to the point where they jam open or anything like that, but where you flick them open, especially if you flick them open hard, if you have like a thumb stud or something like that on them. You'll feel a little bit of resistance before the button will go down. Not so much on these guys at all, so that is good. They do implement those pretty darn good. You can probably hear just a little bit of rattly here. And that basically comes from that stop pin there, moving between the both sides of those liners and stuff like that. Something that Boker has a large problem with, like some of their Kalashnikovs and stuff like that. You can fix it if it absolutely bothers you with using just a little tiny bit of cotton, maybe something out of like a Q-tip or something like that. But yeah, there we go. There's the TS399. Excuse me. That's a Tepe design. Very, very similar to the TS261. That's probably getting pretty hard to find about these days. But still, this is an absolutely fantastic knife. And as long as you don't mind the button locks or don't have bad luck with them, this is probably good as well. So there you go. As always, I appreciate y'all for watching, and have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, yo. Subscribe.